everybody, Rachel here, Treehouse Knits. You are watching episode 34 of the Treehouse Knits podcast. Thanks for joining in. It's a gorgeous morning here today, Michigan. I'm just looking out of the window here. It's a fall morning, October 4th, 2018. I realize I never usually give the date, but I love October, as I know many of you do, and I am feeling very inspired to knit all the things. So I've had a great couple of weeks since I've spoken with you last. I hope you have. I hope you were able to do some fun creative activities during that time. You can find me on most of the socials as Treehouse Knits. I also have a web page called Treehouse. It's thknits.com, where you can find everything on there, links to everything that I'm doing on there, as well as links to my Ravelry page, where I'm also Treehouse Knits. And I do put everything, all the projects that I'm working on, you can find the information for those on my project page on the Treehouse Knits Ravelry spot. I wanted to also mention that on Ravelry, we do have a podcast group, Treehouse Knits podcast group page, and on there we have our knit-alongs and such, but especially wanted to point out we have a map going of viewers of my podcast, and I love to hear where you're all from, and then if okay by you, I put your location on the map. It's a Google map that you can link to and see where people are coming in from all over the world, which I love how knitting brings us all together that way. So check that out. If you have not introduced yourself and let me know where your location is, do so. We'd love to hear from you. I love to do that. Also, we have the Year of the Mitten 2018 still going strong. Check out that thread on the Ravelry podcast page. The mittens that are coming in are incredible. I have one more drawing, which will happen the end of the year, and it'll be a good one. So keep adding in the mittens, and if you need mitten inspiration, go check that out. I also wanted to say thank you. I've received a few cards and emails, and I just really appreciate you guys reaching out to me. It was my birthday a couple days ago. I got a beautiful card from Kimberly. Thank you so much again for the card and the mail and the stitch marker as well. Kimberly made a treehouse stitch marker for me, which was really cute. But I just appreciate all of you writing in. Thank you so much for those kind words that you're sending me. I also love to hear and read, I should say, your comments about the podcast, anything I'm talking about. Share with me anything you're working on down below. I read them all. I try to respond to most of them. So, and if you have any questions, feel free to post them there as we move along on this podcast. I think that's all the administrative stuff that I can think of. So let's just jump right in, shall we? So I think I should name this episode When Opportunity Knocks, or When Opportunity, knocks. It's probably been about 3 weeks ago now, right after my last podcast, where I had listed a plethora of projects, I should say, that I wanted to work on over the last few weeks. But I got an email from someone who was trying to unload a knitting machine. And the email said, come check out this knitting machine. If you're interested in it, you can have it. All I ask for is that you knit a cap for a grandchild that's being born in December. A pink baby hat would be great. So I had to go check it out. At that moment, I was not thinking about ever investing in a knitting machine. In fact, knitting machine almost felt like it was cheating to me. But then when I thought, well, with hand sewers, when sewing machines came out, we don't think of a sewing machine as a cheater, or a spinning wheel. They used to use spindles, and when the spinning wheel came to be, I know there was a little bit of negativity about the spinning wheel at first, but now we don't think of that as cheating, do we? So I put that aside and I went and checked out this knitting machine. Come to find out, well, I got to the location and we just threw everything in my trunk. I had no idea what I was putting in my trunk. I keep looking over here because that's where the knitting machine is. Actually have two knitting machines that they gave me. One is just a single bed, a bulky weight knitting machine, but the awesome knitting machine that I got is a double bed knitting machine that was made, I don't know, maybe in the 70s. It is a metal, serious machine, double bed, made in France by a company I think called Superba, which the brand that it was called here in the US is White. So it's a White 1502 knitting machine. So it has been so fun over the last couple of weeks researching, trying to figure out what I have, looking on YouTube if there's any videos, which there were, and they were really grainy and terrible, but they were amazing. So it's been so much fun figuring out things, reading through directions, and then because the previous owner of these two knitting machines was very meticulous in hanging on to any directional books, her materials for classes she took. I have a whole stack of knitwear designs, although they're from, the 80s. They're still usable. I can glean from them how to use the machine and how to create something on the machine. But everything was intact and working, and all the tools were there because there are quite a few tools that you use with the knitting machine. So let me just pan over. Excuse all the mess. This is a working craft room. But here is my knitting machine. Where you say? So I'm going to use my finger. This is the knitting machine right here. I have it clamped to the other side of my table, my desk right now. I might in the future get a narrow table to hook it to. But this right here is called the carriage, and what you do is you slide the carriage back and forth. These are all needles. The needles point this way, and then there's needles coming in from the other way. It's a double bed machine. Each stitch gets a needle, so you set it up. You use this right here for tensioning your yarn. The yarn connects to the carriage, and you slide the carriage back and forth to knit. I know that's a very simple explanation, but that's basically all it is. What's amazing is that one fell swoop, if you can have, 60 needles on one side and 60 needles on the other. So that's a total of 120 knit stitches you can knit in one swoosh of that carriage. Really cool. So as I was looking into all of this, I realized that my machine allows you to knit in the round. It's a double bed, and there is a button on the carriage that says knitting in the round. So I went online and I thought, well, wouldn't it be cool if I could knit socks on this machine? So I went onto YouTube, did a search, and found a video with someone who has a machine very similar to mine, who, with a British accent, very grainy, not the best quality, but step by step how you make a sock on the machine. So I started to make, I thought what I'd start to do is just make a tube, see if I could cast on and then make a long tube. And I followed his directions up until the short row heel, because that was a lot more complicated on the machine. And I just kept going. And in about 20 minutes, after about an hour of setup, because I didn't know what I was doing, after about 20 minutes, I ended up with a tube similar to this. So this is one that I just did recently. It's Zauberball Crazy that I had in my stash. And once I got the tube, because I do afterthought heels, I felt pretty confident in cutting this in half and then making a cuff, a heel, and a toe on each tube. So what I found is that if I split it in half, and then I unravel from the end 24 rows, that would give me enough for my afterthought heel and my, I guess you could call it afterthought toe. And it just left a little bit of yarn left. So 24, ripping out 24 rounds, which ripping out, doesn't feel bad to rip out 24 rounds when it only took you 20 minutes to do the whole tube. So, in terms of the cuff, I would add another 12 rounds to that. But what I ended up doing is just pulling back like an inch from the top and then knitting back up the cuff, if that makes sense. So that was my first, so I did like 2 or 3 socks like that and ended up with, let me show you here. This is an example of a tube that I ended up splitting in half, and my husband's already worn these, but I wanted to show them to you. I ended up splitting the tube in half and knitting it that way. And I love how they turned out. Now, the one thing I learned on this sock, you'll see a line going down that side. That's because I didn't have the same number of stitches on each bed. These are Regia. These actually were really cool to use on the machine. See, I'm hooked into the tension thing. These were really cool to knit on the machine because these are the Perfect that have the yellow yarn in between the 2 socks that tells you where the halfway point is. So I did not, you know, I just knew where the yellow knit into the tube. That's where I cut it in half. So I knit those. Now, after doing a few tubes, I decided I should learn how to do short row heels on the machine. And while it's not hard, it took me a little bit to understand how to do it. I ended up knitting these socks, and I've actually worn these a bit, and I'll tell you, I like the Afterthought heel better. And the reason I like it better is that on the machine, you'll see here, that's kind of the turns that I got on the machine. I wasn't so happy with that. Now, I'm sure I could fiddle around with the tension of the machine and do a little bit better job. Like on this one, I did a much better job. But I don't think I like the fit as well as I like the Afterthought heel. And I believe the reason is I like how the Afterthought heel kind of cuffs my heel. I find when I'm wearing these, I end up with the heel on the front of my foot. It twists around because it's just looser. So going forward, I think knitting tubes and then cutting in heels, toes, and cuffs is the way to go. Now, I love the cuff that the machine gives. It is just such a nice ribbing. So I may end up taking a full skein of sock yarn, splitting it using my scale into 2, and then just doing 2 tubes, if that makes sense. And then I'd have this really nice cuff off, really nice ribbing off the machine. And to be honest, ribbing is not my favorite thing to do. So that's that. I like knitting socks by hand. And by just cranking out these tubes, I'll go through my sock yarn faster, but being able to still do the heels and toes kind of gives me that mindless knitting that I really like socks for. So I hope to bust through a lot of my sock yarn. It's super fun to do on the machine. And yeah, I think what I'll do is I did a story on Instagram, and I'll insert it here about how kind of just shows how I take the tube and make it into a sock. So I'll insert that right here. I was the lucky recipient of a double bed knitting machine. So I am having a ball knitting sock tubes off of my machine. And yesterday I went ahead and knit 2 tubes. This is one. I'll talk more about the knitting machine in my next episode, hopefully coming out this week on Treehouse Knits. But this sock yarn is so cool. It's a sock yarn I picked up when I went to Maine a couple of years ago. It's by the Kiwi Pop Studio, and it has a little bit of bamboo in it, as you'll see, which is giving it a really nice sheen, I think, and hand. I love how it knitted out the pattern on the machine. The other yarn I knitted out on my knitting machine is a Zauberball skein, and I love, again, how this worked out. The tube that it produced from the Zauberball, I'm going to stand up. The tube it produced goes up to my shoulders almost, so it's a long tube, which is so rewarding on the sock machine. It's like 1 second of a swoosh across the machine is 60 stitches. What I'm going to do next with these long tubes, I'm going to show you here. What I did was I took the end of the skein and I inserted my needle and went ahead and knit a toe. Once I got that toe in, I measured. I have a size 10 foot, so I know that like 7.5 to 8 inches from the tip of the toe is where I insert my heel. So that's what I did here, and that's what I'm working on right now. I'm inserting it. So that heel is going in right there. When I'm done with the heel, I'm going to go up a few inches, maybe 2 or 3, because I want to make these a little bit of a shorty sock, and I'm going to insert a cuff. Kiwi Pop Studio gave me, it was a kit. It came with the sock yarn and then the heel and toe yarn, which was a really significant skein. I want to say it was over 50 grams. So that'll give me plenty as I work up this whole tube, and I plan on getting 2 pairs of socks out of this one skein of Kiwi Pop Studio. So that's how I'm working it. If you feel comfortable, as I was saying, if you feel comfortable cutting into your socks by picking up stitches, this is a really fun process. I love my knitting machine, but I also like to have sock works in progress. So if you feel comfortable cutting into your socks, like I do, you get used to it. Picking up the stitches gets easier and easier. I do have a video on YouTube that shows how I insert for my afterthought heel, so check it out. Another sock that I don't know what you call it. I knit on my machine, I guess. Is there a word for it? You know, you crank the sock machine. Do you swish the knitting machine? I don't know. This Lang Jawal, I love this yarn. It feels a little tough when you're knitting with it, but once you wash it, oh my gosh, it's incredible. But here is a pair that I knit, and I inserted this pink for the heels toes, and I knit on the machine the rib for the top. I wanted to show you these too because this, I used an old skein of sock yarn and realized that this skein of sock yarn I used in my very first project I ever knit, like a real project using a pattern, and I thought I would share that with you. So my very first project was this scarf, and it was, I think, called the Latifa scarf, and it's by Jillian Moreno. And at the time I had no idea who she was, but now I know who she is because of spinning. She's written so many amazing books on spinning and videos and whatnot. So Jillian Moreno, this is her Latifa scarf, and I liked it. At the time, ruffles were really in, and I thought the color work would keep me going. Not color work, but change of color of the scarf would keep me going, and then I'd learn some new technique making the ruffle. I remember being very nervous about the ruffle because you had to pick up stitches, which I did incorrectly. I just picked up a bar. I didn't pick up and knit a stitch. I just picked up a bar and knit that stitch. But you'll notice that I did not start with like a worsted weight, which is what the pattern called for. I just went to a yarn store and picked out the colors I wanted. I didn't know anything about weights of yarn. I didn't know that this would take me forever because it's a fingering weight yarn, sock yarn, and I had to use a size 3 needle, and as a beginner knitter, I can't believe I kept going with knitting, but I was happy with the end result. I wore it quite a bit back in the day when I knit it, but now it just kind of sits in the what I've knit archive pile. I used a multi-color yarn for the ruffles, but it didn't stripe fast enough, so I ended up with ruffles that I didn't really like. In the original design, the ruffles changed color a lot. So, but I thought I'd share with you my very first project. It's really bad edges, there's some holes, but I learned a lot and I was very proud of it at the time. So I'm curious, what was your first real knitting project? After you did the washcloths and the little baby blanket kind of thing, I made a blanket or two for my kids' stuffed animals at the time, I remember that. But what was your first project where you actually used a pattern? Let me know down below. You know, I forgot to mention, back to the knitting machine too. You know, he said he just wanted a knitted cap for this machine for actually these two machines. And I thought right away of the pattern I wanted to make. I had the yarn for it. It's the, well, do I have a picture of it? The Berry Baby Hat. And the Berry Baby Hat, Michelle Sabatier. I think it's a free pattern on Ravelry, the Berry Baby Hat. And they wanted pink, so I had this really pretty pink cashmerino Debbie Bliss with a little green top. And I hope that their little baby really appreciates, or the baby's parents like this hat a lot, because I know I appreciate so much this knitting machine that I guess nobody in the family wanted, which I am so happy to get. And I like to think that the lady who passed, that this was her machine. I can tell she loved the machine and she really used the machine based on all the materials that came with it, and that she took such good care of the machine. I can tell she loved it, and I feel good that it's in my hands because I know I will love using it as well. So that's my knitting machine saga. Let's see. I have an idea that I want to start. I thought I'd share with you. You know, we've got Christmas coming down the road in a couple of months, and I have been saving all of my yarns that kind of look Christmassy to me. And I've been just kind of holding them in a bag, in my little Christmas bag. It's starting to overflow, but it's really, I'm picking out anything in the reds and greens kind of category, just a mixture of things. And I'm gonna start, I think, a granny stripe blanket that I work on over the holidays in those colors. I think that'll be really fun to have downstairs by the TV area, just to kind of pick up and knit up. And someday I'll have a granny stripe blanket that I'll bring out just for the holidays. So I thought that I'd throw that idea out there with you. If you're getting lots of scraps or mini skeins from people, Advent mini skeins, that'd be a nice way to use it. So why don't we talk a little bit about stitching? That's pretty much my knitting. You know, I have a ton of projects that I want to work on, but that knitting machine really kind of didn't put me back. It put me back a few weeks, but it's totally worth it because opportunity knocked, and I had to take advantage of that. So I did do some stitching though. I've got my stitching with me. I thought I'd show with you because I know some of you are really interested in the stitching part as well. And I might have a few new viewers who've come over from Floss too. I am working on a series by Country Cottage Needleworks. I love Country Cottage Needleworks look and aesthetic. I have the project in my Q-snap, but I want to take it out so that you can see it. The project I'm working on is by Little House Needleworks, like I said, and it's called Autumn, and it comes from a series of seasonal cross stitch that I thought it'd be fun to put in the same spot in the house and just change them up as the seasons come. So that was fall. This is winter, and it's a winter scene with kind of some of the words of winter. And then I have spring, and I'm probably going to change out some of the colors, make them more matchy-matchy to my decor. And then this is summer. So those are the four that I'll be working on over the course of the year. And I'll just kind of show you where I'm at right now. Maybe I can just open up half of my Q-snap here. I have the words done, and now I'm starting, I shouldn't show you the pattern up there, but now I'm starting the cute house and tree, the scenery and the banner. But I'm using all threads from a company called Threadworks, and Works has an X on the end. I got it from my local needlepoint store that also sells, you can use a lot of their products there for cross stitch, and I really like it. It seems like it's just a little bit better quality than DMC. I was noticing the DMC, if you use it, if you keep it frays. It's hard to reuse. Like if you make a mistake and you pull DMC out, it's a little frayed already, whereas this is just a little bit better quality and is working really well for me. But I just had so much fun knitting up those words. Words go really, really fast. Got my little magnetic holder here that holds my pattern. My little scissors stick to it, and then my needle sticks to it as well. So that's the needle, or the stitching, cross-stitching project I'm working on. And I also got, excuse me, I'll set this down here. I also got a really cool cross-stitch book. I think I got it from Down Sunshine Lane, I think is the name of the cross-stitch online shop. They put on Facebook that they got in stock, a limited stock of this German cross-stitch book called Alle Jahr wieder. I need to look that up, and maybe I will and put it right down here what it means. But it's by UB Design, and they're based in Germany. Of course, the whole book is in German. Now, I don't know why I do this to myself, but I did it with the Norwegian books for mitten knitting, and now I'm doing it for the German cross-stitch books. But it's a very, I mean, they give you the pattern. You don't really need to know how to speak German. My husband speaks German, so I will just have him translate. But let me show you some of these really cool patterns in here. I love that, I love the almost doily effect on some of these with these unique tree designs and house designs. Let me show you the one that put me over the edge and made me go ahead and order the book. It is, all right, here. Isn't that pretty? Oh, I love those trees, and I could keep that all up all year round. I just love that design. It kind of does look Nordic to me. Some of the other ones in here, look at this. Santa on a swing overlooking the town below. I love that. It looks like it's dark out and the lights are on. Wouldn't that be cool with a dark blue maybe background, or just opalescent? I don't know. I'm gonna have so much fun picking out fabrics and floss for these. Here's another one. I like buildings. I've decided I like these old-fashioned buildings. Here's a wreath. Oh, I just love that. The candles, snowflakes. Let me see if I can show you another one too. This one's really pretty, of the reindeer, the sleigh. I really like how these, I like the simple, playful, whimsical designs. Here is a pattern that's stitched like a snowflake with an angel button in the middle. And then there's one other one that I thought was beautiful. This is, it looks like an Advent sampler. But look at, wouldn't that be fun to stitch? All those different motifs on there and designs. And you could just pull one section. If you wanted to just knit the Santa Claus there, you could, or the reindeer. But I really thought that was really beautiful too. Oh gosh, look at that. Super, super cute. Let me see if there's one more. I know I said one more a minute ago. Anyway, that's the book. I don't know if Down Sunshine Lane has any more, but check them out, downsunshinelane.com, or search for this book. I think it might be hard to find, but I'm thrilled to have it, and I can't wait to start one of them. So that is my stitching. Any of you out there stitching? Let me know if you are and what you're working on down below. Oh, you know, the other thing I wanted to share with you, I've gotten into a few floss tubes. I mentioned, who did I mention? Pam and Steph last week, right? I think I did. This week I wanted to mention another duo, and I learned so much from their podcast every week. They are so lovely to listen to. They have information for all levels. You know, a lot of knitting and floss tubes, they jump right in with the stitching and kind of overlook anybody who's new out there that we might not understand any of the acronyms or the materials or how to use certain things or different stitches. And Deb and Liz from the Country Stitch. They're called the Country Stitchers. Deb and Liz. They have an amazing podcast. I learned so much from them. Actually, it's called a Floss Tube, but Deb does a really cute section about showing tools that you might be interested in using for cross stitch. They also have a section where they take an article from a magazine from a long time ago that still applies today and shares with you that technique, or just lots of skill building, and I really appreciate that. And they're just really fun to watch. They have a really neat friendship and very inspirational, the stuff that they stitch. A lot of these floss tubers also knit, so I found a few that are kind of doing joint. They are multi-craftual, kind of like I am, and I'll share with those in a future podcast. I'll share those with you on a future podcast. So that leads me to what fun things I've gotten recently. I got my knit crate for the month. I wanted to share that with you. This is the sock crate. That the theme this year is dash dot dash. This year. The theme this month is dash dot dash. The sock membership focuses on a modern palette with a graphic twist. Isn't that cool? Oh, I love this colorway. I can't wait to pop this into the knitting machine. This is called Rosy Cheeked, and it's their cozy sock. It's cashmere. Ooh, it's merino wool nylon cashmere, and I can tell it's really, really soft. So thank you, Knit Crate, for sharing that with me. And check out the sock crate if you're interested. I will have a link down below if you want to join in on these knit crates, as usual. Okay, so the sock pattern for the sock crate is called Switchback by Hannah Thiessen. It almost looks cross-stitch, but that's knit. And boy, that's a cool pattern for your variegated sock yarn. So I'm excited. I might actually try and do that particular sock. So the whole pattern is in here, which I love. So then the membership crate for this month. Oh my goodness, I was so happy when I got this colorway. Oh, I think it's so fall and beautiful. I love that I get 2 skeins of it in the membership. This is the colorway Tapenade. I know there was 3 other colors. You can check them out at Knit Crate on the Instagram feed. This is also merino wool, silk, and cashmere. Wow, they kind of went all out this month with the blend. I cannot believe yet again that I get 2 skeins of this for like, I think it's 24 bucks. And this is a cashmere blend. So the patterns that I got this month, this is the dash dot dash. This is the knitting pattern. It's called it's called West Wind by Anne Podlasak. And that is done in the colorway they gave me. Really, really pretty. The whole pattern is in this booklet. Again, I appreciate that. And then the crochet pattern that came with it is called Las Mañanitas de Blanca by Cecilia Losada. Beautiful. So 2 patterns, 2 skeins of yarn, $24, I think. Check out the Knit Crate and check out the link down below if you're interested. Thank you, Knit Crate, for sharing those with me. Super, super cool. And then my very last Wool and Honey Sleeping Bear Club. I've had a year of that, thanks to my husband for my birthday last year. And we are ending with Sweet Sparrow Yarns. The colorway is called Peninsula's Third Cutting. And it's this beautiful golden color. What a great color to have in my stash that I can mix with more variegated colors or others. You know, I have so many variegated colors that I appreciate getting tonals. So this is beautiful. The pattern out of the 3 that I chose is called Bitty Blossom by Lisa K. Ross. It's this really cute children's sweater pattern with a really cute yoke design that'll be nice to have in my project, in my pattern stash. that has been a lot of fun. Check them out. Check the Sleeping Bear Yarn Club out, and you get a taste of Northern Michigan in every box. And there is my, the antlers are saying hello from my tensioner on my knitting machine. Okay, so what else? What else? I think I've shared with you everything I wanted to share. Also, I received in the mail from Bijou Basin, I should say, a skein of their Bijou Spun Gobi, which is a combination of silk and baby camel. They asked if I'd be interested in reviewing one of their yarns, one of their skeins, and I thought I would love to see what camel is like to knit with. Check out this colorway. It's gorgeous. If you haven't heard of Bijou Basin, they're located in Colorado, Elbert, Colorado. They are a yak farm. It's a family farm, but they do also get some other more rare types of fiber and make them into skeins of yarn. And this is 65% silk, 35% baby camel. So the silk is actually a mulberry silk. That is a silkworm that is fed only mulberry leaves. And that's considered to be, I think, one of the finest silks in the world, and I think the silk that's mostly available, or readily available, I should say. Baby camel, what I know about that from the Fleece and Fiber source book, I had to look it up a little. The soft downy part of the fleece has a staple length of about 1 to 3 inches, very soft, very warm, very light, and it has a brown tone to it. So you can kind of see when this is dyed with the silk, it still has that brown underneath, and the color is really coming true on the camera there. So what an interesting combination. The silk is giving it that sheen. It'll give it a lot of warmth. And the baby camel, I wonder if the camel has a little bit of spring in it. Like, I don't think it does. So I don't think I would use this clearly for a pair of socks or something that you want negative ease with, because once this stretches, I don't think it'll bounce back easily. But for something like a shawl, I think this would be gorgeous. It looks like it's a 2-ply, which would, well, 1, 2, maybe it's a 3-ply. No, I think it's it's a 3-ply. So I think a shawl would be beautiful with this. I think normally I like 2-ply for lace, just opens up better, but this will open up just fine because it's not merino, nothing stretchy about this. So the hand is amazing. I'll have to figure out something to knit this with, but I look forward to it. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous skein of yarn. So check them out if you want more information as well. The final thing I'm working on is a test knit, and I am allowed to share it because she, the lovely designer, who's Natalie from Remembrances Pottery, she's already shown it on her Instagram. It is a pattern that is a colorwork sock pattern. I've never done colorwork in socks before, only mittens. So I keep feeling like I'm working on a pair of mittens here, which they'd be so cute. But this is gonna be a pair of socks. This is the cuff, and I'm working my way down. Normally I do toe-up socks, but for this one I'm following the pattern, and what's going to happen is it's going to be patterned all the way down to the heel. We're going to insert some waste yarn for where the afterthought heel goes, so I guess it's called a forethought heel, and then the foot also has patterning on it, and the toe will be in this gray color. I am using a beautiful, beautiful sport weight set from Legacy Fiber Arts. Actually, this is DK. I'm using a size, what am I using? A size 2 needle for this, so it's dense. If I were making mittens, I'd probably be on a size 3 or 4. But this is so beautiful. Let me get the yarn up close so you can see the tonal qualities to it. But check out, it's got kind of oranges and reds and yeah, so pretty with this gray color. I'm excited. These, I probably wouldn't wear these as socks in a shoe. But these are going to be great house socks in my slippers or even without slippers in the house. So I will keep you posted on the progress for that. And thank you, Natalie, for inviting me to be a test knitter for you. Very exciting. So I think we've come to the end of our podcast. I'm headed to Rhinebeck in 2 weeks. I cannot believe I'm going. I have been that person who is not going to Rhinebeck for the last few years and enjoyed watching everybody's pictures and videos coming in from the festival, and now I get to go. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to meet so many people that I feel like I know already, and just have a good time knitting. I'll be getting up there Thursday. I'm going to enjoy Needles Up. I've got a VIP ticket for Needles Up, and I will also, thanks to Denise, be enjoying Indie Untangled Friday night, and then of course Saturday, the festival. So I look forward to going to that. I can't believe it. It doesn't feel real, to be honest. So anyway, I wish you all a fantastic couple of weeks. Not sure if I'll podcast before Rhinebeck or not, but you can always see what I'm up to on Instagram. I love to share on there. If you've enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you're not subscribed, and I will see you on the next episode, hopefully, of Treehouse Knits.